Hi! I am so glad you're here. A little while back, I thought it would be kind of fun to find a vintage arts and crafts book and try out some of their ideas. So I went thrifting, hoping to find one from the 60s or even the 70s. Now, there were several craft books out there, but not a lot of them had what I was looking for. I was specifically looking for a book full of arts and crafts project ideas that also walked you through the process and had multiple types of projects. A lot of them were focused around a certain kind of project, like scrapbooking specifically, or knitting, and the way that the books were organized in some of the stores wasn't exactly helpful. In the one arts and crafts section, it had a book on Adobe Premiere Pro and creating a living will. So, not exactly what I was looking for. I did find a few, but the oldest one I could find was from 1991, Family Circle Weekend Crafts. Now, I did already go through the whole thing, and I bookmarked some things that I was interested in and or felt I could accomplish with what I have on hand. So let's go take a look at what Family Circle has in store. Welcome. This week we'll be trying out some Family Circle Weekend Crafts. To get this going, let's start with a craft so chic and stylish you'll want to wear it every day. These Victorian brooches might have been patterned in 1987, but they'll take you right back to 1887. Before starting any project, it's important to read the directions and supplies list, even if you ignore them later. To make these brooches, we'll be using pin backings, felt, muslin cloth, EVA foam scraps, hot glue, and of course embroidery floss. These aren't the required materials as listed, but it's what we've got. Let's get started. First, we're going to trace the guides provided in the book. This should help us keep everything the same size. Now let's get stitching. In the back of your Weekend Crafts book, you'll find stitch guides and several folders containing pattern. Locate the pattern for the Victorian brooches and remove it from the sleeve. Now we'll grab our embroidery floss. And look, we even have colors that match the pattern. From here, simply follow the provided cross-stitch pattern. Be careful, some of these tiny symbols look a lot alike. It may look a little strange at first, but oh, these X's come together to make a beautiful rose. Next, remove the completed cross-stitch from its hoop, and realize that it's much bigger than the pattern. We're just going to freehand everything else. Hot glue the pin backing to the EVA foam, then attach the felt over top, cutting 2 small holes to push the pin through. Glue more felt to the other side. Then glue the cross-stitch on top. Since we don't have a metal brooch setting, to cover up those rough edges, we'll use some gold rickrack to really make it shine. Now that's enough of that. On to the next craft. Next we have this adorable cat trio. This fun, straightforward craft requires sewing and painting, so we'll be using muslin fabric and acrylic paint. Once again, locate the pattern in the back of the book. If you're like me and don't want to cut the original pattern, trace it using a piece of paper and a pencil. They might be cats in the book, but those ears remind me of someone else. A perk of tracing the pattern onto thin sheets of paper is sewing through the pattern, using your traced lines as a sewing guide. Leave a hole at the bottom to turn them inside out. Once you have the outline sewn, tear the paper away and turn them inside out. Fill the form with soft fabric scraps, polyfill, or a mixture of both. Using a ladder stitch, close the hole at the bottom. This critter looks a little too tall for Pearl, so I decided to cut off an inch and sew it closed once more. Time to paint. To make Pearl, I used a few photos as a reference to get her coloring just right. But if you're feline, a little skittish, simply use the provided pattern as a painting guide to make your trio of cats. Moving on, let's make this lovely decorative trinket box. To make this, we'll need fabric, hot glue, a decorative trim, and a box. Uh-oh, I didn't read the supply list before starting, and I don't have a box, so we'll have to make one using some cardboard, a crafting knife, and a compass. We'll use the compass to make 2 circles, one slightly larger than the other. To make the curved sides of the box, cut rectangular pieces to your desired height and slice or press along the corrugated lines of the cardboard to help it bend. Hot glue the bottom edge of the bent pieces to the outer edges of the small circle. Glue a circle of cardboard to the underside of the larger circle that fits within the box to make a lid. My mistakes caught up with me here, because now the pattern provided doesn't fit the box I made. But that's okay. We fly first class by the seat of our pants here. To help the fabric cover the edges, snip the ends all around the circle, fold them over, and glue them down. Repeat this process along the top edge. Look at that clean coverage. To line the inside, use the box as a guide, cutting around the shape to make 2 circles of fabric, one for the bottom and one for the top. Cut out a long rectangle of your lining fabric to cover the walls, and glue the lining pieces inside of the box. Now simply add your trim wherever you'd like. I'm using these lovely tassels I got from a garage sale. Now that's thinking outside the box. Our next project is furniture to impress. Stylish stencils can be used to decorate anything, so this time we're going by the book and stenciling onto some wicker furniture. I happened to have a white wicker rocking chair on hand, a blank canvas ready to be stenciled. To complete this project, we'll need acrylic paint, wicker furniture, a craft knife, a pen or marker, and a sheet of stencil vinyl. I didn't have any on hand, so I'll be using a plastic sheet from an old cricket mat. Simply take the pattern from the back of the book, trace the shapes onto the vinyl using the pen or marker, and cut out the shapes. I added a few mushroom shapes just for fungus. That's terrible. Now we have our stencils ready to go. Remove any cushions before painting to avoid any unwanted spills and stains, although this won't be the last we see of it here. Time to start painting. Tape your stencils to the desired area on your wicker furniture. Simply dab the paint inside the stencil. So simple and easy to do for a relaxing weekend of crafting. Once the shapes have been filled in, remove the stencil and appreciate your masterpiece. It's looking good. Let's try another. Surely it can't. You know what? We used the stencil. Mission accomplished. Now let's fill in those shapes by hand to make those florals really pop. Look at the difference. Though it is looking a little bare bone, let's add some leaves. But before we add any more detail, we'll let that layer dry. In the meantime, let's change up our cushion. To make a cover, we'll take some fabric that matches our paint and use the cushion as a pattern guide, cutting out 2 cushion pieces and 4 rectangular pieces for straps. So each of the rectangles closed along one side lengthwise and turn them inside out, stitching the ends closed. Clip or pin the 2 cushion pieces right sides together, sandwiching the straps in between, 2 on each side toward the back. Sew all around the cushion pieces, leaving an opening to turn the piece inside out. Once sewn together, turn it inside out and pull it over the cushion. Ladder stitch the opening closed, and there you have your cushion. My wicker wonder still needs some details, so I continued painting once the first coat was dry. I even attempted the stencil again, and the little mushrooms painted on like a dream. The smaller the stencil, the easier it is to manage, I guess. Once your masterpiece is complete, replace the cushion and move on, because we've got one last craft to test. Last but certainly not least is this lovely crocheted piece. To complete this project, you'll need yarn and a crochet hook, the sizes of which are both up to your creative discretion. To make this heirloom blanket, we'll crochet these lovely hexagonal shapes, and we'll need 72. We don't have time for all that. Let's make one, and we'll see what this pattern's all about. The pattern for this craft is written out on the project page. Just remember to read the pattern carefully, or you'll have to frog your work. Uh-oh, ribbit ribbit. Remember to count those stitches as you go. Using a marker on the first stitch of a round can help avoid any confusion. A simple paper clip makes a great stitch marker. Look at that progress. Sometimes patterns can look a little busy on the page. I use sticky notes to block out the section I need to follow. 9 rounds later, this hexagon is finished and all my vexes are gone. So let's take a look at what we've made. Need a few fun weekend activities? Crack open a weekend crafts book and see what surprises are inside. Like this lovely crocheted piece, which makes the perfect doily and adds a sophisticated feel to any space. Let's see what else we can find. Oh! This decorative trinket box is great for any room in the house and can be made to fit any aesthetic. What treasures can it hold? Let's find out. What a cute critter! These polyfill pups or crafted cats are appreciated by all, even the furry friend in your life. Would you just look at that? My little Pearl loves her tiny doppelgangers. I can't tell them apart. I think there's another treasure in our trinket box, though. A lovely Victorian brooch. This sensible accessory will add a stylish turn-of-the-century touch to any outfit. I think there's one more project waiting for us. Let's go check it out. Wow, look at that! A painted rocking chair. Our crafty adventures have turned this plain white wicker into a picturesque painting. With lovely floral details up top and on the bottom, our chair looks much more painted than before. With a burgundy cushion to match, this chair looks rockin' to me. We've had so much fun together. If you want to have a crafting weekend of your own, you can for just 5 monthly payments of $9.95 plus tax. This offer is not real and is not affiliated with Family Circle or Parent Company in any way. Stop asking DIY and start asking DIY not. That was certainly an interesting mixture of things. I'll say this. I had fun going through them and trying these different crafts and activities to do. Made some interesting things. I think my favorites are my little pearls and my little box thing that I made. The brooch could be better. If I had an actual brooch backing that it called for, it probably would look a lot better. Which brings me to my weirdest point that I didn't think I would talk about. The crafts in here require you to buy very specific things that it seems like takes half of the fun out of the activity. Like the brooch backing I can understand, because how are you going to be expected to make a backing? However, there are these stuffed bunnies in here that I thought would be cute to make, but it turns out the pattern wasn't for the bunnies, it was for their clothing, and it said buy the bunnies. Doesn't teach you how to make them. It just tells you to buy the bunnies and decorate them. Kind of like with what happened with the box. I had to already have a box on hand. It didn't teach you how to make a box. It was just a very specific pattern for a very specifically sized box. My camera died, so we switched to my phone. What was I saying? Oh yeah, pre-made things. I guess I was a little surprised about how many things it was asking you to buy fully made already and how much of it was just decorating, which I mean, I do that all the time. I did that in my clock video where I just thrifted things and then decorated them. But I guess for like an arts and crafts book, I didn't expect there to be so much that was like required to be purchased. That being said, it fully explained and patterned out a quilt. So it was just funny seeing what was expected to be purchased and what things they just fully explained at length. I don't know. It was interesting. What was also interesting is I hadn't noticed this going through it the first time or even the second time, but when I started pulling the activities out of the book, I noticed that they're not all from 1991. This cover is from 1991. The patterns and activities within are from multiple different years, spanning from like, I think 1987 to 1994. I think the chair was the most difficult. When I went back in, the paint through the stencil worked better for whatever reason. My brush was larger, so maybe that helped disperse the paint in a different way, but stenciling onto wicker, painting in general onto something that is wicker, harder than I thought. And I still thought it was going to be difficult, but it was even harder than I thought. There are so many nooks and crannies, crevices and cracks. How are you supposed to stencil fully onto wicker? Now from the pictures in the book, it seemed like maybe they had sprayed the paint, or maybe they just had a very large sponge brushing it on, because it didn't make clean lines. There was a bit of a spray, a fade. In my opinion, the examples in the book didn't look the greatest, so I knew I didn't want to do exactly what they did, especially the color scheme just doesn't really go with my living space. But you know, I really can't hold the cleanliness, or lack thereof, against them, because there's just no way to make a clean line on a wicker thing. So I don't really know why they wanted to stencil everything, and they really set out to stencil everything in the room. Stencil your furniture, your napkins, your tablecloth, stencil the seat, stencil everything. I probably will try the stencils on something flat at some point in the future, just because I have them now. I made them. I went through all the trouble of making them. I'll use them at some point. This was, I think, my first time doing cross stitch, or perhaps my first time in a very long time doing cross stitch, because I can't recall ever doing a proper cross stitch, maybe since I was a kid. So it was a little difficult for me. I very nearly gave up a few times because I was having trouble counting and following the pattern, because the patterns are very busy, especially when there's no color coding. It's all black and white. So I struggled a bit more with the cross stitch than I thought I would, but I do like it. It's fun. This pattern and this craft was from 1987, I think. So that was, I don't know. I had fun. That's all I can say. I had fun. And if you did too, you can let me know by hitting the like button. And if you want to see what I'm doing next and join the channel, hit the subscribe button. And if you want to know when I post, hit the notification bell. YouTube will let you know. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye!